love, peace, happiness, contentment. Virtues make our life better. Let us ponder on our virtues. Virtues for life.
Hello and welcome to Virtues for Life. This is a program of a series of conversations between Brahma Kumaris and Brahma Kumaris about virtues. Virtues are the foundation of our life, and depending on the qualities, virtues, powers and values of a person, this is how you know what kind of a person you are. Once a person begins to include the qualities of spirituality in their life, then instead of becoming just a consumer, you become a contributor. You become somebody who adds value to the world around you and to yourself. The laws of spirituality tell us that personal transformation is the principal way to achieve global positive change. And so this program is an investigation of virtues, values, qualities and powers. And today at Godlywood Studio with me I have Sister Gabi Reimann, who is from Germany. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Thank you. Gabi's professional background is that she is the chief of the Department of Human Resources at the State Ministry of Education and
Science.
And Gabi has been practicing Rajyoga for the past 8 years. So there's an integration of your inner spiritual life in your government work. You have a very responsible position. You have a lot of people looking at you to see, just what kind of a person you are. So now, obviously, the quality of honesty is something that people are going to give a lot of importance to. How do you see honesty? How do you define that for yourself?
Well, for me, honesty is first not visible. Mm-hmm. So in my spiritual life, it is inside, It's connected also with the powers, mm-hmm. and also with my values. And also values and powers you cannot see. And usually others tell you what they see about your virtues. And they say, for example, well, I trust you, you are an honest person.
Do people say that to you?
Well, sometimes when they come to me and they tell me their personal things, which are not always easy to tell, then it's very clear that they think I'm a trustful person and honest person. But for this is my professional doing. But first of all, my inner honesty is connected really with my own energy. It is what I feel inside, and what I like to put from inside out.
So that's, to me, also connected with being real, being true.
Yeah, okay.
So there is a continuity of genuineness.
It's the inner truth, maybe, to say it in this way.
And that is something, when you started your spiritual practice, did you find that it was already there, or it grew with your practice? How does that work?
Well, I have not thought at that time. At the beginning, I have not thinking about if it's there or if it's not there. It came through studying Rajyoga Meditation, and in this way I could develop the thinking of my own self, who I am, and what do I like. So I like to be this. I like to be in the way that others think I'm trustful or, honest.
In your professional environment, what quality or what kind of honesty do your superiors, what the government, what sort of honesty are they looking for in someone of your position of responsibility?
Well, I don't know if they're really looking about people who are honest in government. But in the profession, in the job I am, it's necessary for dealing with the people who are working for the ministry. And they have also a lot of responsibility, because it's the Ministry of Education and Science where all the teachers belong to, where all the universities belong to, and all the professors, you have to be very careful with what
So there is an honesty in terms of your responsibility to the public, your fulfillment of public trust. How do you see that responsibility? How do you feel that inside yourself?
Well, it's not public. It's, if you deal with people who have a lot to do and who are very under stress as well sometimes, and who have also problems with their health, maybe burnout like this, and also family problems. So they should feel safe when they come to me. And so that they can talk open because of trust, and they should be safe also because, of course, if they tell me something, they have to know that it has nothing to do with the. Let me say how to say. I don't know.
Perhaps you're talking about confidentiality.
Yeah,
you have to.
Because I can also put them into other job.
Yes.
And so I'm responsible for them, and I'm responsible for their development as well. And even then, they can come to me, or they come to me as well.
So, what kind of people come to you in this way?
Those who are working in the ministry.
Okay, but you don't have any direct connection with the educators out there in the school systems?
Only when they say, well, something has gone wrong with these people who are working inside, then it's a disciplinary part also in that role.
So when you have a disciplinary function, then this also requires a good level of honesty, because it's very easy to be harsh.
Yes.
Which would perhaps move you away from an honesty in terms of your human relations with the people.
Yeah.
When you have a person who has a problem of dishonesty, and they come to you, how do you deal with dishonesty in others?
Well, first, I think I have to trust them what they are saying, telling me. First thing also, they do their best in time, and this I have to respect, to give respect to them. And I have to accept as well, even when I think, well, first I feel that's wrong what they're doing or what they're telling me or like this. And so otherwise I would not create trust.
Right. So this is very interesting, the whole thing of building trust, giving regard. So these are a number of other virtues that have to be present in order for the honesty to grow and to flourish.
Yeah, well, I think there's not a value alone, all the values are connected with each other. You can see it here as well,
Yes.
in the picture. It's not anyone is standing alone. And so to develop one virtue, you might have to develop another one first or at the same time, because you don't know what happens. And if you have this bundle of flowers, of virtues, then you're quite, you can manage your life in a very spiritual and honest way.
Let's look again at this idea of dishonesty, because it's there. There are people who steal, there are people who abuse power, there are people who abuse their positions, there are people who just are pathological liars, people who want to pretend to be something they're not. There's a whole area of dishonesty that we find all around us. There are con men, con women who want us, who want to take money by dishonest means, and so on. Can a person who has a lot of sanskaras of dishonesty, can they become honest? And if so, what are the steps?
I think everybody can become honest if he or she realizes what's going on and what's connected, or what they lose or what they get.
So how does a person become able to realize something which they can't realize or which they don't realize?
Well, in my working situation, I always have to talk to them, and I have to tell them, well, this might be, a better way would be like this, or a better way would be like this, and then also the others maybe accept you, or if you're corrupt, you know, of course you have to go out, and then you have no money and no, everything is going.
Interesting that you raised the word corruption, because this is something that we see talked about a lot in the press. Certainly in many countries, definitely in India, there's a lot of issues with corruption. To what extent have you experienced corruption in Germany?
Well, in government there are special rules, and I'm also connected to these rules, because we call it, if you take gifts, you know, and there's a certain amount, like 10 euros, it's written by law, you can keep if somebody gives you a present or whatever of a value. But first, getting any gift, you have to say, well, you have to come to me and say, well, I got this gift, can you tell me the value?
So you have to declare it. Oh, yeah. Okay, and you have to
and then I have to say, well, this might be only €5, take it home. But if it's, you know, if it's a first class menu and afterwards a theater visit, going to theater, cards like this, you know, then we would say, no, you can't, you have to give it back to those persons who gave it to you. And so it's very, very clear that corruption in governments.
Because even if you have to declare it, you always have the possibility of not declaring it.
Of course you have, but okay. Then it's, you know, it's sanskars, a special sanskar of now, this person.
Where you have a culture of corruption?
No, I don't think so. In governments we don't have. Maybe in big banks, as you know, what is published.
Yes.
There we have big, but usually the governments are not very rich because it's people money, you know.
Right. So let's go a little bit further into the contrast between honesty and corruption. What do you think is the personal weakness in a person that makes them susceptible to corruption?
It is the desire to be in company of somebody who is maybe a special person, VIP or whatever, or it's a lack of well, it's a lack of being being with your inner connected with your inner qualities. So
you were talking about that earlier,
Yeah.
that in your spiritual practice, in your interest in honesty, this inner connectedness
Yeah.
promotes the sense of honesty. So do you think if a person doesn't have a spiritual dimension in their life, then they are very at risk to become easily corrupted?
Yeah, because they stop thinking in a special way. You know, they don't think what is the value of it. You know, because it can become attachment. It can become fear. It can become lacking of this and that. And so if you only look of matters, then you maybe at the end you have nothing.
That's right, but we live in a very materialistic world. The media, the education system, the system of career building, family, everything tends people towards much more towards corruption than towards honesty. Or would you think that's a bit too harsh of a judgment?
I would say it's too harsh. You know, now at the moment in Germany we have another development of values. It's the value of sharing. You know.
Okay. Yes.
So for people who throw everything away, you know, what others can use. There's
recycling.
Recycling. Like recycling. It comes from the Greens, but it's also connected with other things. And so the culture of sharing means also that it's not only used for yourself.
So it's a sense of caring for the community, caring for the environment. This sense of caring promotes honesty?
I think so, yes. I think so.
So among people who are more interested in or more selfish, what do you think, what is the way to encourage selfishness or to discourage selfishness? How to sensitize people? What's happening in Germany that's making people feel sensitized to these values?
Maybe you have to be more transparent in all these programs we have for education or studying like this, and also to show that we are cooperative souls and not the one who wins, who one is the strongest, you know, and by power.
So that's a cultural thing, you know, to build a culture of sharing, caring, being loving. But we live, especially in the eastern part of the world, it's those kind of qualities are not always considered very smart, you know, that if you're sharing everything with everybody, then you're going to be left out and everybody else is going to take what you're sharing.
Yeah. Well,
where does it lead us?
Well, maybe the system has to be changed then, you know, I don't know.
So what is the catalyst for change? Do you think it's the one individual honest person? Do you think they can have an influence?
Not only, no. It's also, it should be education as well. It should be knowledge about how we can change, what is our own benefit in this. And for me it's also always a question of how can the further and the next generation go ahead with it.
What do you think?
It's not only one personal thing.
What do you think about beliefs, you know, prevailing beliefs? Because I think people believe if I don't look after me, then what's going to happen? And if it takes corruption, then that's what it takes.
Yeah, but only if we, only if we show that we have especially as spiritual people, that we are satisfied with what we are doing and how we live and how we.
Okay, that's an interesting point.
So we can show, they can see we are happy, and they become pulled by this, because you only can give what you have inside.
Yes.
And we know this as BKs, and so we have to turn inside out, and others, and show others that there are many values, virtues we can.
So we're talking about
develop.
a different kind of wealth.
Yeah.
We're not talking about just monetary wealth. There is this question or this idea of the triple bottom line. The bottom line is, of course, how much money do I get? But the triple bottom line is, along with how much money do I get, how is my health and how are my relationships? Because if we don't look after the triple bottom line, then the other two are going to suffer. So if I go for corruption, what's that going to do to my health and my relationships? Because we have to show that it's going to eventually bring you loss in order for a person to prefer honesty.
It's only for a short time, you can develop your material wealth. It's not for your inner beauty or for what you have inside.
Now, there is this quality that we use, that we talk about in Raj Yoga, which I find quite interesting. In Hindi, the word is Mahsustaki Shakti. It is the ability to feel if what you're doing is right or wrong. Do you work with this?
Yeah. It's the ability also is one of the for me, most important powers as well.
How do you develop that power?
Well, you see, whenever I come into a situation with other people, so I'm working with, I have to listen to them, and then I have to be very detached in the same situation. So, and then I have also to clarify for myself if I'm neutral enough to decide or to tell them what they have to decide on their own, because it's not my decision for their life. I'm not deciding for anybody's life. I only can decide for myself, and if I feel something is easy for me going, then I think I'm on the right path. Easy, satisfied for my own things. But for others, I only can be neutral. I'm not the one.
If you ever find yourself, for any reason, doing something, and then afterwards you say, well, that was not honest, what happens inside?
Well, then I have to apologize or forgive myself, and also go to the person and say, well, I'm sorry for that.
So that takes humility.
Yeah.
So I think what we're seeing is there's a connection between corruption and ego.
Yeah.
And a connection between honesty and humility.
Yeah.
I think that the other thing we want to just raise a little bit, this word conscience. An honest person listens to the voice of conscience. What causes us to stop listening?
I would say it's in education things we say it's an overfloating of something,
Something's just overwhelming you.
Yeah, like this. Or we would say if we are really not agree with something, so we stop thinking, because
Okay, so you just kind of close down.
yeah, some can, I think.
Just avoidance.
Yeah, it's avoidance. It's sort of avoidance. It's sort of fear. Might be fear.
Anyway, we're getting close to the end of our program. Gabi, thank you very much for your insights, your experience, your contribution. It's been very interesting to consider the virtue of honesty. You can see that virtues for life means that they actually give you a greater quality of life. And I would like us all to take a few moments to ponder on this virtue of honesty, purity, integrity. There are associated virtues with honesty, and of course, how do I resist any temptations to fall into the traps of corruption, of lying, keeping myself so connected with my inner truth that I have the courage and the humility to be honest with myself, and honest whenever I make a mistake, quickly say, okay, I'm sorry, I made this mistake, this was not my intention, let me put it right. Virtues for life is probably the thing that really enables us to make the kind of change that we would all like to see, but of course it has to start within our own personal selves, and for that we need to go inside and take some silent time to be connected with the deepest inner parts of ourselves. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and Om Shanti.